Part two of our conversation now with Van Jones, currently senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, president and co-founder of the new nonprofit Rebuild the Dream. All right, thanks for part two as well.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this, what we've been talking about in the first part of this conversation, a cease and desist letter to Fox News. I gather from what we talked about in the first part of our interview that if Glenn Beck were to agree to somehow publicly debate you in a fair manner, the desist and a cease and desist letter might be the end of the legal conversation?
Well, I mean, what I want to be able to do is to actually have an actual discussion. I mean, he's talked about me for 2 years. Now he won't talk to me. I think that says something about his level of seriousness about some of these issues. We're going to monitor, see what he does, what Fox does. We're not going to reveal our hand in terms of what the legal strategy is going to be. But it was a sincere offer to say, listen, we have serious problems in America, and there are serious differences. But we don't have to make up views that the other person has. I don't have to pretend that Glenn Beck believes something he doesn't believe. Let's talk about what he believes and what I believe. And I think that we need more of that in the country. So it was a sincere offer. The reason that I think that we've gotten past now the point where these kind of silly games that are going on with the whole cable news crowd and all the little jokes and stuff like that, I've been out in the country and I have never seen pain like what I've seen.
Yep.
I mean, I am seeing people who've worked their whole lives who cannot find another job, 50 years old, 51 years old. They should be in the prime of their working lives, teaching younger workers how to do the trade. They're sitting on the couch at home getting more and more depressed. And Washington, D.C. is missing in action. And this austerity mania has completely taken both parties over. So that rather than do the sensible thing of having a speculation tax on Wall Street, going back to Clinton era tax policy for the wealthy, we're going to throw Medicare under the bus. We're going to throw schools under the bus. We're going to abandon public workers who are America's everyday heroes, cops, teachers, people we were taught to respect growing up, people who have never abandoned America in a crisis. We're supposed to abandon them and the American dream and the American way so rich people don't have to pay taxes. That is a serious moment, a choice moment in this country. And so we're coming forward with Rebuild the Dream as a way to gather the people who want a common sense response, Keith, to the problem. If you have a budget problem in your family, you don't say, well, let's just starve grandma.
That's right. Let's get rid of a couple of kids.
Yeah, let's get rid of a couple of kids. Junior goes to you cut back on non-essentials. Junior goes to get a pay route or we call it a paper route. You increase the revenues as you cut non-essentials. That's how American families deal with problems. America's government's taken a completely lopsided, one-sided way. And instead of talking about these issues and coming together with the best ideas from the Republicans, the best ideas from Democrats, independents to solve these problems, it's just distraction after distraction after distraction. And I just got tired of it, and I said, listen, cease and desist with the nonsense, but let's have a real debate. And the guy goes and runs behind a door. So I think the rest of us now, who actually care about the country more than we care about the nonsense, have got to come up with real answers.
All right, to the point about the issue of where to cut and what to do. When the president comes out, not to pitch you against him, but when the president comes out and makes his speech about Afghanistan and says, makes a point of saying we now have to live within our means, which can be interpreted by a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. Do you worry that this sort of austerity, as you put it, the hysteria about austerity or austerity is so infectious that it's even in the White House now?
Well, this is what I know. D.C. is not going to be any better than the American people. And the American people have to stand up now. What has happened is a very small group of people have gotten very loud and noisy, and they've gotten very good at pushing the media's buttons. It's called the Tea Party. And they've been able to just literally just sort of like electroshock the entire political establishment into stupidity. Meanwhile, the vast majority of Americans, you look at the polling data, Keith, most Americans think we should be winding down these wars very responsibly, but aggressively. Most Americans think it's perfectly fine for corporations to pay their taxes and for wealthier people to pay a little bit more. The American people are wise, they're smart, they're fair. They know the president can't wave a wand and create jobs tomorrow, but we should at least be taking it seriously and moving in a fair direction. But rather than that, we've got this sort of, manufactured hysteria in D.C. D.C. can't snap out of that by itself. The American people have to stand up. That's what Rebuild the Dream is all about. So on Thursday, the 23rd of this month, we are going to have a launch 1,500 people are going to get together here in New York City. It's going to be a webcast at 8:15 p.m. East Coast time. And the Roots are going to be there, so you know it's going to be fun. I'm going to give an extended kind of TED-style talk on the economy, and we are going to lay out a game plan to get the millions of Americans who've been silenced, who have good ideas to fix this problem in our economy, to get them vocal, to get them heard again. And I think you're going to see a very big movement begin to come together to save the American dream.
But you've got on the other side of this a putative news network that exists to reinforce the paranoia of people who genuinely believe, that they're being sold into slavery by black, gay, liberal, Marxist, anarchist, Soviet, fascist members of ACORN. How do you, it's not, I mean, as ridiculous as it sounds to normal people with actual functioning brains, there is a large population that swears by this stuff and is convinced that at any moment somebody's going to bust through their door and take away their freedom.
Well, let me say about them, there is a fringe that's very, very disturbing, but there's a chunk of people who have been caught up in this, who are right to be populist in that they want to see the ordinary people of America not be taken advantage of by certain elites.
Right.
Here's where they're right about that concern. Here's where they're wrong. They've got the puppet master thing wrong. They think there's a government elite trying to take over the economy.
Right.
Obama is a socialist. No. There's a corporate elite trying to hijack our government. That's called Citizens United and the Koch brothers, et cetera. And so I think that as we begin to put forward concrete ideas, here's how we could have jobs in America. We could fund an infrastructure program by having a speculation tax on Wall Street. Just give me 1/10 of a penny on every one of those lightning trades. These Wall Street bankers, they sit there, they're working so hard. Their computer is sitting there doing 1,000 trades a second as an algorithm, and that's how they're making their money. Well, hold on a second. You can't tax rich people. You're going to discourage them. How do you discourage an algorithm? Okay, we could tax that speculation and take money out of Wall Street and put it back in the American economy. There are so many good ideas out there. They're getting drowned out by the small number of button pushers. And I tell you what, nothing can stand up to the American people once you got some good solutions and you have sane people talking. That middle section, not the far fringe, they will start thinking to themselves, hey, wait, hold on a second. Maybe there's a better way to do stuff. Other thing that's going to happen, these cuts, the Tea Party base can't survive these cuts. How is the Tea Party members going to deal with communities where they can't find a cop because they laid them all off?
Right.
They smell smoke, there's no fire station for 20 miles. They pick up the phone for 911, they're waiting for 12 minutes. How are they going to survive these cuts? So I have a great deal of confidence in the wisdom of the American people, but we've got to have this rebuild the dream movement to put the issues on the table, even for the mainstream media, to begin to talk, at least in a balanced way, about what our real options are.
When that sort of talk, which seemed to be at its apex after the president's inauguration, the opportunity for it sort of fell away into this button-pushing machine, which you have to admit was a really good idea for its purpose and worked very, very well.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that, having seen it from firsthand from essentially inside the White House, do you think that portions of the public and portions of the liberal base of this country and portions of the Democratic Party, maybe in the White House itself, that was caught kind of flat-footed by the fact that these buttons were so easily pushed, that there was an organization ready to come in and say, we don't care that you've been elected president of the United States, we're not going to respect you, we're not going to believe you, we're going to spend every day in office of your term demanding that you prove that you're not A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. Was there a flat-footedness to this, and did you feel it personally in your own case?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I was caught totally flat-footed. I really believed we had a president who was basically a purple president.
Yep.
I mean, bipartisan to the genes, a bridge builder to the genes, came in arms open, reaching out. I also, of course, because I was working in the White House, I knew the level of peril we were in, Keith. We were headed down fast. I mean, the Great Depression would have just been a middle run scenario. We could have been in a situation where we had a deflationary spiral, and you'd have been walking around here with big wheelbarrows full of cash trying to buy a sody pop. Okay, that's where we were headed. And we knew that the other side knew that. And I don't think for 1 second anybody thought, and it sounds foolish, that we wouldn't have a partner on the other side in a crisis that big. And we reached out with our arms open in a crisis, and I was shocked to get punched in the nose and everything else, personally, and also for the President of the United States. And I think that the challenge we have morally now as a movement, Dr. King says, never let anybody push you so low as to hate them. So we can't return hate for hate. That's off the table. But at the same time, we have to be wise enough now and strong enough and tough enough to say some values can't be challenged. We spent 100 years since 1900 building up a country with a beautiful middle class, a safety net, equal rights, all this respect. We're not going to repeal the 20th century. I'm sorry. We're just not going to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that and I've struggled to try to find a voice where I can be as tough and strong as my dad on stuff that matters, and at the same time not fall over into hatred and anger. But I tell you what, the American people, slow to anger, sometimes easily misled because we don't really always know who to believe. But over time, as ordinary people step forward and say, we got to do better for these veterans, we got to do better for these kids, these homeowners that saved these banks. American homeowners and taxpayers saved the banks, but the banks won't even let you renegotiate your principal, your rate, and anything. They're laughing at us. We got to do something about that. I think that people are going to walk away from the ideological extremes and step forward boldly to say America deserves to be treated better than the way the folks in Wall Street are treating us, and the way we're being abused by Wall Street, neglected by D.C. We're a better country, and I think we're going to find a way forward out of this. I believe we're going to find a way forward out of this, and I hope that people will tune in to the Rebuild the Dream a webcast tomorrow, 8:15, on Thursday, 8:15 p.m. The Roots are going to be there. I'm going to be there. Shepard Fairey is going to be there. We have a number of organizations, MoveOn.org, AFL-CIO, SCIU, Center for a Campaign for America's Future, Center for Community Change. A lot of beautiful organizations, patriotic organizations, the deep patriots that don't just stop at the word liberty, but believe in liberty and justice for all. The deep patriots are finally standing together saying enough is enough. Let's be a better country.
The new organization is called Rebuild the Dream. It is launching here in New York this week. And Van Jones, who's also a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, great thanks again for your time.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.